welcome to today's Office Hours live demo series featuring Benjamin Henry, Komprise Field CTO. And this is I guess you can call this the second session in our migration overview series, Ben. So we're going to dive into what's new and some advanced features. And just a reminder for everybody, you can go to komprise.com/office hours and you can see recordings of previous sessions. Of course, the benefit of being here today live is, we want to hear from you. So use the chat panels, put in your questions. And this is really all product, all into tips and tricks and best practices. So we'll get out of PowerPoint pretty quick and let's dive in. So Benjamin, you did a session on migration best practices. Anything you want to highlight there before we jump into today?
Yes, definitely. If you're starting a migration or you've been doing migrations for a while, it's great to go back, set it on like the 2x speed, run through it. There's some really cool tips and tricks in it. We're going to dive back and talk about a couple of them today, but again, dive into also some more advanced features and some new features. So, yeah.
Awesome. So why is this once again, just so top of mind? Migration, unstructured data migration is definitely happening in a big way right now. So maybe hit us with some of the trends and what you're seeing when you talk to customers and partners.
Yeah, it's cost, cost, cost. I'm hearing a lot of pain, a lot of pressure out in the community. Talking to a lot of customers, partners saying, "Hey, customers want to do this. They've been on this legacy hardware. It's at the 5-year mark, so the support prices are spiking to keep it under support. However, looking at purchasing new storage sometimes unattainable. Some are saying, okay, let's flip and do an OpEx model and go to the cloud. How do we get there? What's the egress like? How do I get there affordably? Still, I've got all this cold data, the digital landfill hanging around. How do I mine that and use it? It's all front and center right now, and it's everything that's right in our wheelhouse to help you to be successful.
All right. So what are you going to cover today?
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk about some really cool updates first. We're going to dive into also the addition of Azure Blob and migrations, and migrating between your traditional traditional NFS and Blob. We're going to talk about some pausing of migration jobs, what the original design was, and how it's being enhanced to help our partners and our customers. Single pass migration for dual shares, sometimes also called mixed protocol. This is a cool one. And then some UX updates that actually help simplify migrations and their reporting. So, should we dive in there?
Yeah, and you're going to go a little beyond just the core migration. Do you want to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about, there's a lot of customers and partners know us for the migration use case, but there's so much more in the platform that goes beyond migration and are connected to migration. Any highlights there before you show it?
Perfect segue. So you're kind of leading the witness here, Darren. That's exactly where I was going to go. Is kind of preview some features that are coming out in the next release that tie into a broader perspective. So with that, let me go ahead and share my screen out here. All right. So when you log into Komprise, you always land at the plan page, but I'm going to skip over and talk about deep analytics here for a minute. So in deep analytics, it starts with a new query. I'm going to come over here to data stores, and what you're going to see is an addition of object. So we're rolling object and allowing more unstructured data management within a single pane of glass moving forward. So you'll see the introduction of Amazon S3, Azure Blob, and GCS down here. So let me go ahead and expand Azure Blob. And I'm just going to go ahead and check this off, hit run. Just like traditional SMB and NFS, you have the same visibility, the same pane of glass. I can get the details of all the files in that object storage. I can also export this to Apache Iceberg format. So Snowflake, Databricks, Microsoft Fabric, all applicable here. All right, I'm going to actually focus in my query here on GCS for a minute because I'm going to run through a scenario with that. So I'm going to hit new query. I'm going to expand my data stores. I'm going to go down to GCS. I'm going to drill into this bucket. And I don't want to just look at everything in this bucket. I only want to pick out videos. So if there's specific extensions that I want to target, I can put them in here. If I just want to look at the generic video type that has a bunch of pre-baked extensions in it, I'm going to use that. And the pre-baked extensions that are in this category, you can add to that, you can remove from it, or you can even create your own category here that shows up as a file type. All right, moving on. Let me hit run. Okay, so I've reduced the data set now down to 7 terabytes and 160,000 files. I can view that list of files to preview it to make sure I have what I need, because we're talking about operating in an OpEx model. Everything you do in cloud storage incurs a cost. So let's be responsible about this. So the scenario that we're playing out here is video processing using AI to build a catalog of products in a video. So let's make sure we're sending the right data through this, because not only am I making a copy of this storage, I'm sending it through AI, which costs money. So again, let's be surgical. Let's be specific about this. So I'm going to go ahead and save this query. Get back up here, save. I'm going to call this one, make it public. Call this one demo AI. All right, I'm going to hit save. Now, again, public versus private. Private means only I can see this. Public means anybody in my organization can see this query. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. I'm going to jump over to workflows. I'm going to hit add workflow. So this is our smart data workflows. I'm going to do copy for ingestion because I'm making a high-speed copy for AI. Now, what I'm going to do is choose the destination first. So I'm going to use this generic S3 compatible plugin here, because what I'm going to do is send this not to yet another bucket. I'm going to send it to an API gateway. That gateway is pre-programmed to start the video processing with the AI agent. So I'm just going to put in the URL. Again, this is a demo. So URL 1, bucket 1, key 1, key 1. And I can choose in this API gateway, do I want to land it in a very specific prefix or just land it at the root? In this scenario, I'm just going to land it at the root. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Now, here's where I get to be surgical, because I'm choosing now the source of the data that needs to be sent to this API gateway. So I'm going to choose Deep Analytics Query, the toggle switch here at the top, drop down, and then here's my demo, which is, again, just video files in that GCS source. I'm going to hit next. Now, another cool feature is I can choose this workflow to be a one-time workflow, or I can choose it to be repeating. And on repeating, am I looking for everything again? Or again, responsible data management, I want this to reoccur and only find changed videos and new videos. Changes also includes new videos. I get to choose the frequency, choose whether I want this workflow to start automatically at the end, hit next, next, next. That copy operation starts. All right, let me bounce out of there. So again, that was Smart Data Workflows. Quick little preview on here. I think we've got a series coming up, Darren. We're going to talk here at the end about kind of spending more time on some advanced features that have evolved here as well. So little teaser.
Yeah, we'll go deeper. We'll go deeper into smart data workflows, Kappa data services, as well as the transparent file tables. It's interesting that you're starting a migration session using deep analytics, right, to get surgical, and then talking about workflows. These are things people may not be familiar with if they're only using Komprise for migration today. So, again, it just kind of emphasizes your analytics first philosophy.
Yeah, know before you go all the time. All right, so let's drop back and talk about the core of today's session, migrations. So I'm going to bounce back here to the migration tab, and I'm going to start by adding a migration. And what we're going to see here, again, some additions. So I now see a cloud option down here where I'm going to see some of my object storage. I'm going to choose for this scenario, let's see which one I've got. I think it's the Isilon. Let's see here. Yes, here's the Isilon. So Isilon system zone, I have my share, my NFS export sitting here. I want to send that to blob. So it's going to convert it from NFS to blob in this operation. So I'm going to hit next. I'm going to choose the destination, cloud, Azure. There's my bucket. I get to choose the access tier. So where do I want to land this data? I don't want to just shove everything into hot. I want to also put it in a tier that's appropriate for the data type. So I'm going to leave this on the cool tier. I get to choose, do I want to, much like a migration, do I want to do a directory-based migration? Well, I get to choose, do I want to land the source data in a specific prefix within that object area? All right, leave everything to default. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. I get to choose my intervals, same as any other migration. Toggle switch here. Am I staging my migration? Okay, turn it off. I can start it later, or nope, I want it to start now. So next. I get to choose the name for it. I'm going to leave the default. I get to choose the log file location. If I want to build a chain of custody report, where do I want to drop that? Migrate. This is kind of cool. So in this migration, we will preserve the POSIX permissions when it gets migrated to objects. So if you want to go back from object to NFS, you'll retain those POSIX permissions. Validate the transfer. This is a little bit different. In any other migration, this is turned on. By default, when you're going and converting to object, this is turned off. You can turn it on, just understand that there are egress costs associated with that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Any other migration, get the review of everything I've selected, and I'm going to go ahead and hit start migration. And that's going to spin up here in the background. So on my first iteration, if I want to view the details of this, again, like any other migration, I click in here, left side source files, NFS, right side object Azure. The details of the iteration are right down here, and those will continue to build out. Another cool feature that I don't have turned on here for me today is the errors. So with errors, you would traditionally see a little download arrow here. You'd have to extract a report. You now have the option to open up a page within Komprise to see all the errors, and they're paginated, and then you can extract them all from there as well. All right, let me back up here. So that migration is running NFS to blob. You could also do the inverse. I'll walk through the setup of that. Very similar. So let's say I want to come back. I'm going to go Cloud, Azure, Bucket. Then I want to say next. Oh, I can't do that because the other migration's running. That's right. So let me shut that one down real quick. So I've got this one. Let's turn that one off. Let's do pause. Pause. Go ahead and close that. Perfect. And then let's go ahead over here. Let's remove that one. Excellent. So safety rail in there for a reason. Go ahead and remove that one. Hit close. All right, perfect. So now I'm going to add migration. I'm going to choose blob as my source. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to choose, let's see here. I think that was the Isilon, the system zone. Let's go here. So now I'm going to go the inverse, blob back to NFS. Next. And as you can see, the workflow is exactly the same. All right. One of the things you saw me do was the pause. So let's talk about that. I'll take another one of these that's running, and I'm going to pause that. So the pause operation, traditionally within Komprise, the pause operation is designed to pause the schedule of the iteration. So what it does traditionally is it would let anything in copy finish the copy operation before it would officially pause the iteration. A lot of great feedback from, again, our partners, our customers. And what we've done is we've made that a very efficient pause now. So when you say pause, rather than finishing what it's trying to copy, it's going to stop immediately. It's going to terminate those threads, and it's going to pause the iteration and prevent it from running. So now you can pause. So let's say you've got something disrupting the environment. You're doing a WAN-based migration. There's too much capacity being utilized. So you want to shut down your migration jobs. You can shut those down immediately and not have to wait for anything at all. Beyond that, which helps you too, let's say I have to shut down all of my migration jobs. Well, there's now a bulk actions on the left-hand side here. So these checkboxes, a lot like we have in data stores, have been moved into the migrations tab. So I now have a bulk selection. I could pause all my migrations at one shot. I can also say many other things like resume them, start the next iteration, push these all to final. Well, now we're going to lean into the next feature, which is the way you can group some of these jobs together. Because maybe you need to push a group of migration jobs to their final, but not everything. Well, that's where we have the search filter here at the top. You'll notice the naming convention that I've used here. Waves. Waves are typically used to designate cutover dates. So you've got wave 1 through wave 50, 100, however many cutover events you want to plan for. So if I want to take an action on a group of migration jobs, I can say wave 2. So now I just see my wave 2 jobs, and I've got one that's paused. Okay, well, let me go ahead and unpause that one. Let me resume it. And that will resume in the background. There we go. So now I can say, all right, all my wave 2, highlight, start their final iteration. And it'll start the final iteration on all of them. So you don't have to go through each job now and start them manually. I can even mark them completed. I can remove them. The choice is yours. All right, let's see here. While we're on the topic of organization, columns. Again, another new button, top right-hand side here. These columns are no longer fixed. You get to choose how you want this screen to appear to you. So it's like data stores. This is a per user session. So if Darren wants his migration tab set up one way, he can do that. I can set mine up another way. The two will always be retained for our profiles. So left-hand side, all you have to do is drag and drop, and then you can layer them however you choose in this format. So I'll move these around. I'll hit save, and it'll change my view up.
I love
Also,
that. Is there are there some recommendations you have on columns, like how you typically, set up your environment?
yeah, so everyone's a little bit different. I like to see more of the details. I love to see the path, so the destination path, the source path. A lot of times you have what's called the share name, which is great, but I want to see the path. Where is it actually residing in relation to the storage controller, SVM, access zone? I want to see exactly where it's going and sort by those sometimes. So I really like to see that in my migration screen. Performance is always really important to me. So when you're doing your initial iterations, maybe you have the transfer time or the transfer speed closer to the left-hand side. Then as you're done doing your initial synchronization, that becomes less and less important. And it's now more important about the files per second that you're processing the data. So you can constantly move these around based on where you are in the stage of your migration to help out. Same thing. You used that filter I talked about before. Okay, I know I've got wave two that's in its final iteration. So just type in wave two, and now I can just get the stats of those right there. All right.
Nice. There's a few questions, Ben.
Let's roll through them. Yep.
Well, actually, people are also using this as a feature request. So dark mode was
Perfect.
requested. We got
That's
to
one of
note
that's
that.
one of mine too. I want to see dark mode. You'll make our engineers very, very happy. So I'll put that RFE in for you.
Nice. We'll come back to workflows. There are some questions about that. Maybe we can do that at the end. This
Yeah.
one's specific to what you're talking about now. Is it possible to get a summary error log of all the migrations in one report, or do I have to go to each migration to see errors?
Yes, so you can get a summary of all the errors by the error logs themselves. So there's a central reporting option. So if I go to my system settings and I go to the migration tab here on the left-hand side, you'll see this migration audit logs. So if you centralize those logs, you can actually you can summarize everything pretty quickly. So here's the protocol. A lot of times I wind up using object for this because if I want to say give access to a migration partner, I want to give access to a legal team, a compliance team, I typically use object and then just give them the URL and let them process it however they want. But all the logs in the audit logs, it's not just what files are being copied, but there's also a specific error log, and you can aggregate those together pretty quickly. It's a really good question. Thanks, Darren.
Cool. And yeah, keep them coming, folks. We were talking about data stores, and you mentioned it as you were going through this. It looks very
Yeah,
similar. Are there things you would set up there
yeah,
first and then do something differently in the migration data
yeah.
stores like interface?
Great call out, Darren. And actually, the data stores page, which I just flipped over here too, extremely powerful when you're planning a migration because you can extract the report from data stores and have 90% of your migration planning done. All you have to do is plug in the destination share in that report. So, what am I talking about? Well, let me find one that's got quite a few shares in here for this demo. I think I've got, I say quite a few. I'll look at zone two here real quick. All right. So I got a bunch of user shares. So what I can do is I can say report. I can pull this report and I'll show you what's inside that. All right, let me say don't convert, don't really care. Let me get rid of the top header section here because I don't need that for this point. And what's cool, again, it's CSV format, so I can customize this however I want. All right, so I now have a view, which now is filtered to my view that was in data stores. So if you saw before, I was only looking at this cluster here and this zone two access zone. So when I hit report, that report is focused on exactly what I was looking at. So in here, I get all the information about those shares and the columns that I had. Now I can choose the columns. I can add more to it. Again, I like to see the actual path that it goes back to on the storage system. So in here, I can then say, all right, I can look at the consumption. I can look at the cold data. That's always worth noting is how much of my data is cold. Do I need to bring that with me? Should I be tearing that data off before we ever start the migration? We talked about the need to start doing more cloud migrations, doing more of an OpEx model. Well, when you start hitting an OpEx model, let's talk about moving the data responsibility. So if you have cold data, throw that to object, then migrate it. All right. So all I have to do here is plug in a couple more columns. I like to do like what's my destination share,
So you're
destination share.
customizing. Yeah, there's a question on this report as you do this. For the report, customize the CSV when created or after you load it in Excel.
I'm sorry, one more time, Victor.
For this report, would you customize? I mean, you're doing it right now. So once it's in
Yeah.
Excel, then you're customizing further.
Yeah, so when any of the reports you pull from Komprise, it's CSV format. So then you can add more to it. So I can add more columns. Let me go back here a second. Perfect. I can add more columns to this. You can see I don't have many columns here. When I do a migration, I'm going to drag more of these columns over and structure them in the format that I like. I talked about the share path. I put that front and center. Again, I want to see where is this data actually on the storage controller. I don't really care about the actual the UNC path. I care about the actual structure, the volume structure, the ISI path. I want to know more about that.
Got it.
All
So
right.
customize here and then
Yep.
customize again later once you're in Excel.
Exactly. So you start adding things about your destination, and like the one where actually really it's only three. So it's the destination share, the destination path, and what cutover wave do I want this associated with? So in here, now my migration planning's done. I can use this as a report to start setting up my migration jobs.
And can you get a summary error report in a CSV Excel format that Komprise generates?
You get an error. Yes, that is the download link. So if I had errors in any of my migration jobs, let me see if I have anything in here in the simulator real quick. Get rid of this. See if I got any. No, I don't have any red bangs over here, so I don't have any errors. But when I go in here and I go to errors, if there was any errors, there would be the summary report right here that you could pull. And then there's that new feature where you have the option to download the summary here, but you also have the ability to view the errors from within Komprise in a paginated pop-up.
Nice. And that's
Really good
in
function.
the upcoming release, or is that it's already
That's
in
available now.
6.2?
Yep. Yeah.
Available now.
Talk to
Okay.
your account team, talk to your CSM. They can turn that feature on for you.
Okay. I don't want to take you too off track, so I'll let you keep going on migration, and then I want to bring you back to some questions on smart data workflows.
Yeah, I mean, so we talked about the bulk actions. We talked about the configurable columns, both in migrations and in data stores. We did forget about a really good one. So I'm glad I
We
looked at the
talked about
summary down here, Rick.
the pausing
Yep.
capabilities,
We
as well
talked
as
about that.
Azure.
Yep. So let me add migration. This is another really cool one. So um, let me get down here. So what we call is single pass migration for dual, sometimes known as mixed mode. So I'm going to choose, I want to say it is my NetApp. I've got a mixed mode share right here. Um, you'll notice that some new drop downs here that are by default that when you choose a mixed mode, the advanced category drops down before you can go anywhere else because it's asking you what protocol do you want to use to do this migration because it has mixed data. So when I click on SMB, you'll notice there's a new text box here. When you use SMB to migrate dual mixed shares, it's a single pass migration. So consider it high fidelity. When you use the SMB, we're using what's called KCP for SMB behind the scenes, where we're able to copy both SMB and POSIX in one single pass. So I'm going to continue configuring this migration. I'm going to use the SMB option here as it tells me to. I'm going to click next. And in this situation, I'm going to go to, let's see, Pure. And I have a mixed share here. So I'm going NetApp to Pure. I'm going to go ahead and click Next. I get to choose standard or KLV, keep latest version. We talked about that in another series, how you can have almost a near zero downtime cutover event using KLV. I'm going to click Next. My intervals, start migration automatically. Settings, I'm going to leave all the defaults right here. Next, I get my report. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit Start Migration. So in a single pass, I'm going to copy both sets of protocol permissions, making this a very efficient migration job. I
Powerful.
think
Hey,
there,
Ben, I'm going to bring you back to the basics.
yeah,
So the question is, I have a customer that believes Komprise can archive data. Is that true, or is they thinking wrong? I know it can move data to S3 in Glacier. So we haven't talked about tiering. The plan page you haven't even shown, which is pretty rare in a Komprise demo. The cost model. So maybe just back up a little bit, talk about smart
yeah,
migration and the power of tiering.
yeah. This is great. So
Or
we're talking
archiving,
about
because as Vladimir notes, terminology matters. So sometimes it's
it
called
does, yeah.
archiving, sometimes it's called
Tiering
tiering.
versus archiving, and let's call that out. That is two different terms for most of our customers and our partners. So starting with the basics, let's talk about the two of them. Tiering is an opportunity to tier the data from primary storage to colder storage, and you leave a link behind. We call that our transparent move technology. The users, the applications, they don't even know the data has been moved. Um, if you want to create a traditional archive, we can do that as well. So it's called move without links, where you turn that feature off and the data is separated, where you have the primary storage and the cold storage, and the two don't talk to each other. We do both. It's a lot of times encouraged to do the tiering because you get less pushback from your customers, your applications, your user community, because they don't know the data has been tiered. But if you need to create a traditional archive, you absolutely can do that. And it starts here on the plan page, our data donut that we have right here. So I'm going to create a new plan. And let's start over here. So call it demo. And I get to create groups. Grouping are just logical organization of maybe what you're doing. So I can have one here called tiering. I can have one in here called confine. And I can go on and on and on. So now I've introduced a new term, confine. So you have tiering, archiving, and now there's a third operation called confine. Think of it as ring fencing. So if you have data that may be sensitive, which you could know that the data is sensitive, you could use deep analytics to help you define whether it's sensitive data. You can use smart data workflows to dive inside the files to look for PII and tag it as such. So confine will take it out of the production. So it's like a move operation behind the scenes where it takes it out of the production area and then moves it into a safe zone that you designate that only administrators have access to. You can choose to sanitize it. You can choose to delete it. I have a lot of customers using confine as a cooling off period before their data deletion practices. All right. So those are the options there. I'm going to drop this one. I'm going to go up here to this one, to my tiering. I'm going to turn this on because I want to do a move operation, which is our traditional tiering. Right here, dynamic links, on or off. Going back to your question, Darren, that you asked earlier. If I don't want to leave the links behind and create a traditional archive, I click disabled. But now, how do I define my data? Two ways. I can have it a broad policy, which is about age. So I can say any data that hasn't been accessed in 1 year or more, I want to tier off. Now you notice the data donut refreshed, but there's nothing to look at because I haven't added my shares. So I'm doing my modeling. So let me add some shares to this. So let me look at, let's see, let me do NetApp. Yeah, let me do all this entire SVM. Let's model this. So if I only look at data that hasn't been accessed in 1 year or more, I can actually see some of my savings there. Again, I can move this back and forth. I can add exclusions. I can mess with my cost model. I think I saw a quick question there that popped up that caught my eye because it's about cost. Very passionate about cost. It's something that I always try to dive into with our customers about how important it is to set the cost of your storage here, because everything in Komprise then plays into it. All of your reporting, all of your showback, chargeback, shameback is all automatically built for you in Komprise. So set your storage costs in here. It's all modeled here, but then you also have the reports tab at the top, one of which is your showback report, where it uses that cost that you set on that plan to model all these. And you can do it by the entire environment. If you have multiple sites, you can do it at one site. You can do it per isolon, per share. You can email these. They can be schedulable, all kinds of features. And I'm really getting off track. So I'll get back here to the plan page. See, Darren, we hit cost analysis. I'm getting into it again.
Well, it's good. And I'll put the link in the chat to the session we did last time on reporting and the cost model.
Yeah. A lot of our customers will tier off their cold data before they ever start a migration because it shrinks the amount of data that you have to migrate, and it significantly cuts down on your cutover times as well. So great topic, Darren. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to start with Komprise today, I mean, we often start with the tiering use case.
Yeah.
Also, people perceive migration as sort of one and done. Can you talk about kind of an ongoing, kind of more lifecycle management approach, or with maybe it's scheduled reports, maybe it's with the analytics? How do you go from just I've got to go from here to there to this needs to be part of what we do, and people need to know about it?
Yeah, so this is kind of cool. So Komprise, as you know, it's not just for migrations, it's a total unstructured data management platform. Um, how do we use it for more than migrations? Well, it can start with migrations. It can start with tiering before migrations. You could tier after migrations. But for me, in my previous career, it was always about responsible data management. The dollars and cents had to be there. You had to find ways to achieve savings to do something else in the organization. Constantly facing budget cuts. Yeah, that's business as usual anymore. So if you want to do something else, you want to add something else, you want to do a storage refresh, you had to find the savings to fund what comes next. And you can do that really quickly with Komprise because you can start by saying, hey, I only want to archive data that's 5 years or older, hasn't been accessed in 5 years or more. You can say it hasn't been modified in 5 years or more. You can choose. So you start tearing that off to colder storage, you're freeing up your capacity, you're increasing your runway on your primary storage, but you're achieving savings. So even if you're in the cloud, so you start looking at the cloud, okay, this is cool, but my cost model has become too expensive. I have to find a way, or I have to repatriate my data. Well, let's find ways to do that. So tear off the cold data, move only what's hot, using those symbolic links, or what we call transparent move technology with dynamic links. Users and applications don't know anything different, but empower the users. And so we're going back to the reporting. So Darren, you get me wound up on the whole cost model again.
Well,
So with this,
I also get wound up on orphan data and duplicates,
yeah,
so the rot data conversation, right? Why move from this old house to this new house and bring all of your, I guess I'm thinking about my own life, but bring all of your old baggage with you.
yeah. Well, again, that's a great one. So a great call. I brought it up as you said it. I was clicking on it, so it was perfect. Duplicates. So you can look at duplicates not just in one storage ecosystem. Komprise allows you to look at duplicates and define what is a duplicate across your entire estate. So it doesn't matter. We're storage agnostic. You could be looking across Pure, NetApp, Isilon, Cumulo. It doesn't matter. Look across all of them. Find the duplicates. In here, you get to define what is a duplicate. The orphan data report. So before you do a migration, show your leadership, show if you're a partner, show your customer how much of your data is orphaned. It does not have SIDs that resolve because the users have left the organization. A lot of times, legal compliance, they want that data gone. So use this report, talk about it before we ever start a migration, reduce that data set. Well, how do I reduce it? Well, that goes back to the plan page. Build a query. So actually, when I say go back to the plan page, we're going to go to deep analytics. New query,
And there was a question. I just
owner.
want to make sure we don't miss it. Was
Yeah.
can we add different cost models for different plans? Maybe you already covered it, but
Yes. Yeah, I'll drop back that and show you how you can do that. Yes. So if I want to build a query to do something with orphan data, so new query, owner, actually undefined owner, run, that's going to show me how much orphan data I have across my entire organization. 22, almost 23 million files. In this case, it's just well, it's a petabyte. It's a petabyte of data. So that's a conversation. Should we be migrating that? Should we be confining that? So I can save this query, and now I go back to the plan page, and I can build that confine operation to say, okay, this is orphan data. Let's put this over here in this landing zone. Let legal, compliance, whoever, let them deal with this. Put that to their cost center. Make them pay for that. So, cost model. How do I change my cost model per storage platform? These plans are just models. So all you have to do is create a new plan. I'll call this one Pure, for example. And in here, I'll just call this FlashBlade. Add storage. I can come in here. I can add my FlashBlade. So I can have one for FlashBlade, one for FlashArray, whatever you choose. And then I can edit the storage cost model for that specific storage platform. So however many different cost models you want to associate, just create a different plan. And you can adjust it that way.
fantastic. I think we're going to jump into some final thoughts and wrap
Oh,
up, unless there's anything else you want to cover, Ben, that we might have missed. Or
no, we kind of jumped around. So we covered a roll up here of some of the new features and functions of migrations. We talked about SGW. We talked about cost modeling. No, really cool conversation. Really great questions.
all right. So let's just go. You also hinted at transparent file tables and that ability to export to Parquet. This
Yes.
is something we're really excited about. And, if you have, say Databricks or Microsoft Fabric or Snowflake, there's some really great capabilities here of kind of bringing this all together in a single view. You want to talk a bit about this? And we're going to dive into
Yeah,
this in a future session.
that's perfect. So Darren, so I'm working with a lot of life sciences organizations, specifically research, where they're leveraging Databricks, Snowflake, Microsoft Fabric, many others to build a catalog. And when they're building the catalogs, what they're realizing is, hey, we don't have the NAS data where potentially all of our slides exist. So they're leveraging Komprise smart data workflows to, one, pull out the header metadata from those slides, the type of microscope, the magnification, the geolocation. We can enrich that data in that global metadata base, deep analytics. So you can tag it, and then you can extract the metadata and the header metadata and get that into Snowflake, Databricks, and just wildly expand the data catalog that the researchers and the scientists can use. Talk to your account team, talk to your CSM, turn this feature on. Happy to do it at any point in time.
Awesome. So let's bring it back to migration for a
Yeah.
second, and then I want to kind of end with some of the things that go beyond migration.
Yeah, so like one of the first things is know your options. We talked about this, managing north, south, east, west. Same goes for your migrations. Know your options, north, south, east, west. What are you doing? Orphan data, cold data, obsolete data, duplicate data. Do a 360. Look around. What are you migrating? Present options. Maybe you're the decision maker. Make the decisions on what you want to do. Or, hey, if it's a lift and shift, at least you're informed at what you're moving around.
Fantastic. Now, the question came up as I don't have the workflows tab. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Can you talk about like how to get it, what release people need to be on? And then also what's in the full platform versus what's in a migration only, edition of Komprise.
Yeah, I mean, the licensing behind Komprise is super simple. You've got the analytics, you've got the migration, and then you have full platform. It's really simple. Three different lines. Talk to your account team, depending on which one you're on. If you don't see the workflows tab, but you see deep analytics, ask your account team to turn on smart data workflows because you have the full platform. If you just see the plan and migrations and a few others, again, talk to your account team, run a quick proof of concept, talk about your options and upgrading the full platform. It's all available to you.
And tiering in particular, right? I think if you're
Yeah, tiering in
migrating,
particular. Yeah,
you really,
yeah,
you really
that's part of
gotta,
the full product. Yep.
you really got to take advantage of the tiering, kind of ongoing tiering, not just this one-off migration use case.
And that's something you touched on it, and I forgot to say it, Darren, that when you set up your tiering plan, it's a set it and forget it type of process. You can be active and changing it all the time, but you can also set it and constantly be achieving savings because you do your initial push of all that cold data, and then you let the plan run in the background as it's designed to do. And as data ages out, it'll continue to automatically tiering it. So it's not a once and done. It continues to run. It's on autopilot. If you wanted to achieve more savings, just dial it in a little bit.
Fantastic. I don't see the chat when I'm sharing my screen. So if you've seen anything else that's come in, please hit it.
Okay.
But let's just go to what we're going to do next. So we are going to go deeper into the Kappa data services, that ability to get in and look at header metadata and all kinds of interesting use cases that are kind of expanding the reach of Komprise to different users in your organization. We'll dive into transparent file tables. That'll be in September, and we'll send info on timing. But you can go to the office hours link that I put in the chat to look at specific recordings we've done, and send me an email if you want a topic. We'll hit it. Any final thoughts, Ben?
Okay, great session. A lot of great questions. Thanks for putting this together, Darren.
All right. Thank you, sir. Look forward to it. I think when people watch this, they might not go on double speed. It might be on, slow down sometimes, -1. But yeah, you
Trying to
covered a lot
pack
of
a lot
ground.
of content in, just a lot of content in a short amount of time. So
Good stuff. All right. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to our next session and appreciate all of the engagement.